LDBC. This is your boy, Coach Shelton Harrison. You're live on the Coach Shelton Harrison Boxing Show live. Let me tell you do something right now, okay? You know, I went home and I sat back and I watched the Keith Thurman versus Showtime Sean Porter fight. And I watched it again. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I think Kell, Brook, and Errol Spence Jr. could beat Keith Thurman. I think they could. In fact, I think they would do it probably in impressive fashion. You know, and I rescinded my 50-50 chain. I rescinded it. Like, I used to say that Errol Spence Jr. and Kell Brook, it's a 50-50 fight for Keith Thurman. I changed my stance on that after watching this fight again. I just saw some flaws, man. I saw some flaws, and one thing that stuck out with me with these flaws in Keith Thurman is that, you know, he abandoned his jab. I mean, he big time abandoned his jab. And that kind of bothered me because I'm like, well, dang, you know, if he abandoned his jab and can't keep these guys at bay, you know, like he really couldn't keep Sean Porter. Now, I noticed that when Keith Thurman was using his jab, I noticed that, you know, he was able to keep Sean Porter at bay, and Sean Porter didn't try to rush in there as bad. But he just threw his jab out the window like Keith Thurman was going for the home run, you know. And it almost looked like he was doing that because the pressure from Showtime Sean Porter was just getting to be too much, man. And it's almost like Sean Porter's like a gnat, man. He like a fly. And it's like you're sitting there and you're trying to swat this dude, but he still keep coming back, you know? And I think that's the impression I got when Keith Thurman was fighting Showtime Sean Porter. That's what I thought. You know, like, it's almost like, you know, Sean Porter, that swarming offense, it's almost like Keith Thurman, you know, knew what he had to do, but it's just, I don't think he felt like he had the stamina to do that the whole fight. You know, it was a good win, though. Keith Thurman, to me, still won the fight. But, you know, can you imagine what would happen? Like, say if Keith Thurman in the ring with a Kell Brook. You know what Kell Brook would do? Like, really, you know what Kell Brook would do with Keith Thurman? He would outbox him. Kell Brook is a better boxer than Keith Thurman, in my opinion. And Kell Brook would keep a stiff jab in Keith Thurman's face the whole night. He would, because now we know that Keith Thurman, his inside game is not that good. I'm sorry, it's not that good. He did better this time, but his inside fighting game to me is not that great. I don't think so. And I think that, you know, a really true good inside welterweight, I think they could probably do some damage to him and probably even get a decision or possibly knock him out. Now, I can't see Kell Brook knocking him out. I don't think Kell Brook would knock out Keith Thurman. But I do think that Kell Brook would definitely outpoint Keith Thurman. It's just a lot of flaws, man. His lateral movement, Keith Thurman's lateral movement to me is not it's good. It's getting better. And he did move around the ring better than I've seen him ever move around the ring. He had to. Because if he didn't, man, he was going to get seriously hurt by Sean Porter, man. His lateral movement is better, man. But I don't think he got the lateral movement to keep up with a Kell Brook or an Errol Spence. I think Kell Brook would beat him in footwork, and Kell Brook would actually outpoint him. He would. And if he abandoned his jab against a fighter like a Kell Brook gonna outpoint him. I mean, people, that's just the way that is, okay? And I think Kell Brook's ring IQ, I think it's better. I'm not saying Keith Thurman is garbage, man. See, don't misconstrue the video. Don't misconstrue this video. Because I think it'll be a brutal fight. It's gonna be a tough fight regardless. But I think Kell Brook would actually outpoint Keith Thurman. That's just what I believe. I think he would. And I think Kell Brook is a bit more patient, and he's going to wait for the openings, and he's going to catch Keith Thurman with that stiff jab. He is. He gonna catch him with a stiff jab. He gonna set up with a right hand, then he gonna grab him. He gonna smother Keith Thurman before Keith Thurman got a chance to get off. That's what he did to Sean Porter. He would catch Sean Porter with a 1-2. He'd grab Sean Porter, smother him so Sean Porter couldn't get off. And that's what he'll do to Keith Thurman. Because Sean Porter and Keith Thurman, they're these guys, they like to pull the trigger. They like throwing punches. See, a guy like Kell Brook gonna smother that. Now, when you get to Errol Spence Jr., y'all, I keep telling y'all this, and we can say Errol Spence Jr. hadn't fought anybody, okay? He hadn't, but you know what? I looked at the fight, you know, and I watched Keith Thurman fight Brandon Hoskins, and I watched Errol Spence Jr. fight him. And both of the guys, man, they got Brandon Hoskins out of there. I'm talking about they knocked him out. But, man, Errol Spence Jr., when he knocked Brandon Hoskins down, Errol Spence Jr. is still trying to beat this dude. This dude can't even defend himself no more, and Errol Spence Jr. is trying to still beat this dude. The referee trying to hold him back, and he's still trying to get at this dude. And I look in Errol Spence's eyes, man, and I'm going to tell you something. That's a guy that don't care. And when I say literally don't care, Errol Spence could give a damn about anything on God's green earth. He don't care. And his whole thing is, man, he going in there, Errol Spence like blood. Literally. I remember when he fought a guy named Noe Bolanos, man. And God bless Noe Bolanos, because Errol Spence Jr. about knocked this dude's head off. Errol Spence Jr. saw blood, and it's almost like another mode of Errol Spence Jr. turned on. Like, he smelled blood. The smell of blood excites Errol Spence Jr. You know, even in the interview, he said it, man, when I saw the blood, man, I just went in. Like, what kind of a guy, man, thinks that way? Errol Spence Jr. likes the smell of blood. And I'm going to tell you something, man. Could you picture him in that ring, man? Because the guy does have an inside game. He got an inside game. He got an outside game. He can fight from different angles, man. He can throw these punches from different angles. And Errol Spence Jr. can change levels. Guys, I'm telling y'all right now, I think Errol Spence Jr. get in there. And he'll get in there, manhandle. And he will beat on the inside. And see, I start thinking, too. Sean Porter hit Errol Spence with a body shot, a vicious body shot. And Keith Thurman had to backpedal. He had to. Wasn't no way. And he was trying to shake that off, man. Keith Thurman can say he wasn't hurt. He was hurt. I know. I done been hit with a vicious body shot and into the liver. And let me tell you, that's the worst feeling in the world, man. And you don't want no more of that. You want to try to recover. I'm telling you, man, Keith Thurman felt that liver shot by Sean Porter. He felt it. What do you think Errol Spence? And y'all just think, right? What do you think Errol Spence Jr. gonna try to aim for? He is going to target that liver. He gonna target that body, and he gonna throw a barrage of combination of Keith Thurman body. And could you imagine Errol Spence Jr. getting on and putting him on the ropes? Could you imagine that? I'm telling y'all, man, the chances of Errol Spence Jr. beating Keith Thurman and beating him savagely is high. Whether you like it or don't like it, y'all, that's just the way that is. I say Errol Spence Jr. could defeat Keith Thurman. Reason being, Errol Spence Jr. has better footwork. He's faster on his feet, man. The guy can cut the ring off, and he throws punches from these odd angles. He can change levels. He can go from the body to the head. He ducks at the waist. And Errol Spence Jr. is a hellacious body puncher. People, that's just the way that is. I think more so Errol Spence Jr. more than Kell Brook could beat Keith Thurman. But I think Errol Spence Jr. beats Kell Brook and Keith Thurman. I just think, man, Errol Spence Jr. is on another side of vicious. Like, you see how Sean Porter was just attacking Keith Thurman and going in? Errol Spence Jr. going to do 10 times more damage, man. And I'm telling y'all, don't sleep on Errol Spence. You can say his resume is this and that, but I'm going to tell you something. The guy hungry. And when you see a guy with that kind of hunger in his eyes, I'm talking about that kind of hunger, you better believe he going to do some damage.